All right. So thanks for joining us. You had a busy week last week.
Sure did.
Yeah. So it seemed like everything went pretty smooth. At least it appeared that way on our side.
That's right. It appeared that way on the outside, but let me tell you, it was hairy on the inside. I mean, it was never something like this has never been done before. There was a lot of loose ends going in, mostly my fault, and only because the witnesses were so good. The committee, of course, had done this many times, and we had a great AV set up or orchestrated by Ron James that made it all happen. Because we had internal AV, we had a multiple two-language webcast going out, we had internal translations, headsets, and Ron James made all that work. And also, there's camera crew cruising around with an additional 4 cameras on top of the 4 in the room. That's 8 cameras, filming this and that for potential use in the documentary. So, but it worked. It was exhausting, but from the standpoint of the audience, from the standpoint of the media, they saw, I think, an unprecedented event.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, too. You laugh when I say that it appeared to go across pretty well, because I know how you feel when we do our conference. You know, people don't see all the things that are breaking behind the scenes. Luckily, they see what's in front of the audience and everything, and so they don't get to see all the behind the scenes and the hair pulling and the craziness that is all going on.
And the nervous breakdowns, yes, they didn't get to see that.
So, as far as the results, I mean, it seems like, unfortunately, the media was kind of a little negative at first, well, for most of the week, but it seems like they've gotten better this week. How do you feel about the outcomes of the whole event?
Oh, well, we're getting rave reviews from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're coming in by emails, they're coming in by Facebook, Twitter, and I say that from people that know about the subject, care about the subject, and they're unprecedented. I've never seen anything like them. I mean, I've held some conferences, I've done some things, you know, people say, well, that was great, thank you so much. But these are different. We'll probably put a lot of this up on the site eventually to sort of list, to see people get a sense of these reactions. The press, of course, starts off doing what the press does. But this event was designed specifically to counter that. So the press can come into a 2-hour press conference, show up, not show up, watch it real quick, go do a slam article, undercut it, whatever, and then move on. And that's that. But when you have an event that lasts 5 days, and 6 hours, well, actually 8 hours a day with the breaks, then you got press may come in and do something, but the other press come in and they do something, serious about it. And then that press, that media operation is looking stupid. And then it builds, and other media know that certain media are there and they're not there and they should be there, and this builds on. And so we're getting a lot of press. We're going to get more. I mean, this is only just starting. We have a full-time press relations person, publicist, who is working every talk show in the country right now. We have 30, I don't know how many hours, 32, 33 hours of extraordinary content. And which people are already posting on the internet, and we're going to have to pull it down because that's not cool. This is proprietary. This is a film production deal. We owe $1.6 million to the backer of this, and so we appreciate everybody wants it for free, but we're going to have to be pulling that content down, and they're going to be hearing from us. We have got to make a movie from this, and we have a lot of interest in this material. But I do appreciate the enormous eagerness of people to see this and spread it as fast as they can, because they do sense it's important. I understand that, but they also have to understand that this took an enormous amount of work and effort, thousands of hours, plus and $1.6 million is owed on it. So please respect that, so that we can get on and raise the money, pay that, and then move on to other things. So the result is that we've broken through that press barrier and created something that they simply can't get away from. I mean, with that kind of footage all over the place, they can come in and ignore it, but then somebody else covers it, and then they're going to come in. If they want to write something stupid, then the footage is there to show that what they're writing is nonsense.
Let me ask you this. If you kind of set the bar pretty high for yourself. In other words, a lot of times when people in this topic approach the media and the mainstream, it's to prove that the UFOs are a significant phenomena that deserves study. You went a little further in that you were tackling the idea that the government's hiding information on extraterrestrials.
Absolutely.
And do you think that that made your job a little tougher when it came to dealing with the media?
You know, perhaps. But the point of moving forward is not to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. The truth embargo, as designed, is for us to continue to do nothing but look for unidentified flying objects, which to me is a complete utter waste of time. The concept of the UFO is no longer appropriate. The evidence for an extraterrestrial presence, certainly a non-human intelligence, if someone wants to say, well, they're not extraterrestrial, they're living in trees in South America, whatever, they're welcome to do that. But common sense is still a factor of the scientific inquiry. So and not to mention the fact that there have been huge numbers of direct contact between humans and extraterrestrials. Over 1 million accounts have been written and sent to researchers around the world. And in thousands and thousands of these accounts, these entities tell the contactee they're extraterrestrial. What can I say? The point is that the evidence is that we have extraterrestrial presence here. The government knows about it. The government is embargoed, and there's also contact going on. Now, contact was not part of this particular hearing. It may be part of the next one. And so, to go to the media and kowtow to them and speak their language when the facts are otherwise is simply not going to get us anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean that certain members of the committee are where I'm at on this, or certain of the witnesses, though many are, right? But this hearing is being held not because there's unidentified flying objects in the sky. This hearing was held because there's extraterrestrials engaged in the human race. And our job is to get the media to investigate. And if the media would go into gate mode, Watergate, Iran Gate, Benghazi Gate, Trooper Gate, Pork Barrel Gate, you know what I'm talking about? That gate, Lewinsky Gate, Benghazi Gate. Look, if they were going to in gate mode and just start asking a reasonable number of tough questions of the obvious people, this embargo would be over this summer. It wouldn't last 60 days.
I want to get to that.
So we're that close. We're that close to the truth.
Now, you brought up the committee members, and I think that's a really interesting aspect of your event in that, like you said, not all the committee members are ready to go to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, but a lot of them did move from not knowing much about this topic to being interested in the UFO topic, and some of them moved to, yeah, we think there's extraterrestrials. They feel that the testimony was convincing. You had a good comment, a comment I really liked in your closing thoughts, which was that these people are, when they're Congress people, they're told there's nothing to this, so they don't get information and they don't seek information. But when they get the information, such as the testimony from last week, they took it pretty serious. Do you think that the chances are better now, or do you have any indications that perhaps the sitting Congress may be able to get more of this information?
Well, the sitting Congress is still a dysfunctional entity. It's a mess. As bad as we've ever seen it. It's in a modern era. I don't know what it was like in the 1800s. I hear it was pretty weird, too. They have an approval rating of 10%. The devil has a higher approval rating. But there were two fundamental audiences for this event. One was the media, and the other was the Congress, 14 blocks away. And I'll state what I have stated many times. If the United States Congress starts holding full-out hearings on this, I don't mean some one-day thing. I mean full-out hearings, and brings in, say, the top 200 witnesses that we could easily provide them, that within less than 30 days, the entire Congress, their hair will be on fire, and this embargo will be done. It will be over. And the approval rating of Congress will go from 10% to well above 50%, just like that. So they can continue to live in opprobrium and jokes and ridicule as do-nothing, hyper-partisan, blathering idiots. Or they can start doing their damn job, which is to get information to pass policy that serves the American people. And there's hundreds of witnesses, many of them military with top security clearances, ready to talk to them tomorrow under oath. And the fact that they don't call them up there right now is perfect example of why they are dysfunctional and their approval rating is where it is. And so we're sending them a message, save yourselves, guys and ladies, right? Right? Save yourselves. The people are dying to hear the truth, and you have a truth mechanism that's built in to our system, which is the hearing process, where people come and give basic facts under oath, possibly with subpoena, to members of Congress who are supposed to objectively gather those facts to provide to committees to make legislation. You don't have to believe or not believe. Just get the information. This is not complicated. And as the evidence is amassed year after year after year, the Congress has not held a hearing in 45 years. This is complete testimony to their fundamental dysfunction and inability to do their job. And obviously, the fact that they are pretty much completely mesmerized and taken in by the truth embargo, either by edict or by simply going along with the institutional status quo.
Now, you had your hopes were really high before the event, and one of the things that you had told me, one of your goals was that you hoped that this event would help, snowball into going above the Congress's head and hopefully getting the White House to end the truth embargo or do UFO or extraterrestrial disclosure by the end of the summer. Do you think that that momentum's starting? Do you still have hope that that might happen?
Well, let's clarify.
Okay.
The metaphor was not snowballs. It was chain reaction. It was critical mass. The concept when you pile enough uranium bricks, you finally get that one extra brick, and bingo, you've got a basic chain reaction, nuclear reaction. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to pile enough bricks of evidence and webcast and former members of Congress, the sheer scope and depth of the testimony, the venue at the National Press Club, the location in Washington, et cetera, that at some point some editors and reporters and publishers and even owners of networks will go, holy Moses, there's Pulitzer Prizes hanging from trees to be plucked here. Ratings bonanzas, money to be had. All we have to do is do our job as we're supposed to do under the journalistic ethics, which we supposedly all take a certain allegiance to as journalists. Journalists are not just people like running grocery stores or something. They have a special place in our culture. They are fundamental to the sustainment of democracy and in representative government. That's why the famous quote by Pulitzer is so important. It sits on a plaque in the wall of the National Press Club right now. And the quote starts off with a profound sentence that says, "Our republic and its press will rise or fall together. When the press falls, we fall. When we fall, the press falls." All right? And so that has not been happening. The press is falling. It's not doing its job, and we're declining in every area. Pick an area. And the United States is falling. Its dollar, its prestige, education, science, you name it. The only area we're not falling is the number of nuclear weapons we have pointed at the world. That's it. So the press is contributing to that. And the failure to engage the ET issue, the most profound issue in human history, is perfect testimony to their failure as the fourth.
So you stacked some bricks last week, and I'm sure I guess you're probably planning to stack some more. I mean, do you think you're on target for your end of summer critical mass?
A little behind target. We did not. This proved to be an incredibly difficult thing to put on. The gathering of the committee, much more difficult than I expected. The recalcitrance of some witnesses who wouldn't come no matter how much you begged them. They simply wouldn't come. Their own personal whatever opinions, their ego, whatever, meant that this was just beneath them. It was very disturbing to me. There were some really important witnesses that could have been there, would have added more power. Whatever, that's their opinion. All of this made it very, very difficult. Plus, the cost of it escalated because of these issues from $300,000 to over $600,000.
So going forward, we have the movie coming out. When do you think you'll have that ready?
Well, when it comes to movies, it's hard to say. The documentary called Truth Embargo, we hope to have it ready by late fall, mid-late fall. We are going to make every effort to get this into full theatrical distribution or substantial theatrical distribution, not only in the U.S. but worldwide. There are many other ways to disseminate a documentary, as you know, now particularly, but there is a certain gravitas associated with a film, documentary particularly, being in the theaters, like Inconvenient Truth or Michael Moore's or whatever. And other than, I think, a somewhat semi-connected documentary to this issue on Von Daniken or Velikovsky that was done back in the 70s. No documentary addressing this issue in a meaningful way has ever been given theatrical distribution, which is remarkable when you consider that there's been over 300 movies about extraterrestrials, plus countless television shows generating, I believe, based on my research, over $75 billion in revenue. But the documentaries about the real situation, what's going on, can't make it in the theaters. That's unacceptable. And so the truth embargo, we hope, will be the first to get that distribution. And believe me, we're going to work very hard on that. So that's coming. But right now, the next major development, and as I say, we're going to push this move cycle for months, right? We're not going to let this go, is that we are issuing a press release tomorrow morning with respect to the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure communique that was composed on May the 3rd. The members of the committee met with witnesses, hearing witnesses, in a separate room at the National Press Club, and everybody in the room represented 10 countries. And the decision was made because the fact is that these very smart, intelligent people have been profoundly affected by this testimony, as would any members of Congress should they hold these kinds of hearings, not some one-day whitewash, but real hearings, would be profoundly affected by this testimony. And this communique, as you will get the press release soon, and I know you put it up on your site, essentially it gives imprimatur to the Citizen Hearing Foundation, which we've just launched, right, nonprofit 501c3, to go out and raise funds to pursue a number of nations to have their head of state authorize a submission to the UN General Assembly, a resolution. Hopefully we want to have it multiply sponsored. In other words, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 nations to submit a resolution to the General Assembly calling for a world conference to address the evidence for a possible extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race now. And that is a big deal. Now, the last time the UN was really involved in this was 1978. And this is when Grenada introduced a resolution. Before it could really be completed, the Prime Minister of Grenada was deposed while he was in the United States. Mm-hmm. Interesting coincidence. But a commission was set up in the UN that basically has done nothing since 1978. Something got started, but it didn't go anywhere. Not surprising. This was 13 years before the end of the Cold War, and there was no way that the United States was going to permit anything concrete moving forward that could threaten the truth embargo, which was absolutely sacrosanct while all those thousands of nuclear weapons were pointed over the poles. But nevertheless, that commission exists. In addition to pursuing nations to submit a resolution to launch the World Conference, we are going to visit that commission. We're going to engage the people on the committee in which that commission rests to see if they will internally do it from that direction. So we're going to approach it from two directions. So this communique is going to be announced tomorrow in a press release. It's going to go around the world. It is signed by 4 of the members of the committee. 2 of the members could not sign. 20-year Congressman Roscoe Bartlett and 20-year Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey. And what we're stating on the draft, after consulting with the Health Ethics Committee lawyers, is that they are unable to sign due to post-employment restrictions on former members of Congress and congressional officers. And those restrictions are quite simple, that in the first 12 months after leaving the service in the Congress, Senate or House, you are unable to engage, contact, directly or indirectly, foreign nations. And that would include the UN. And so they're simply precluded. They're in a quiet period that does not allow signature. That's all we're putting out.
How long is that period?
I'm sorry?
How long is that period?
That period lasts till January the 3rd next year for both of them. But nevertheless, 4 members are signed on. And this gives us, I think, an international presence. The Citizen Hearing Foundation, which was set up for the purpose of creating more citizen hearings, as well as doing significant high-level education of not just the public, which, by the way, is 50% already on board on this, as you know, Alejandro, but the media and the Congress and other legislatures around the world. We already have some people prepared to approach other legislatures in South American countries. We're going to put strong emphasis on South America because the interest down there is profound. We have strong witnesses from there. And so don't be surprised if we get a group of South American countries making the initial proposal or request to the General Assembly. So that is going to be in the works. In addition to the documentary project, in addition to the serious documentary, which is starting to spread around the world, which has a great deal of witness testimony in it, as you know. And it's being generally well received. It's an hour and 56 minutes, but it works. I mean, let me tell you, any documentary that keeps you in your seat for an hour and 50 minutes has got to be pretty good. The truth embargo is under enormous pressure. Not too long ago, Australia joined Canada, the UK, and New Zealand in releasing proactively, without pressure, UFO, quote, UFO files from their databases and so forth. Not the smoking gun stuff, but the files. The pressure is mounting on the United States. And the message that everything that PRG does and everything that is going on worldwide to the White House is very, very clear. And I cannot repeat it often enough. And I repeat it on your video because obviously I'm not getting invited to talk to the president about this matter. The message is this: anyone in the White House that thinks that they can simply continue to not face up to this issue and that the rest of the world is simply going to sit on their hands while we dither is making a colossal mistake. Anytime now, tomorrow, a number of nations, and I include most certainly the Russia and the People's Republic of China, could go before their people and announce the extraterrestrial presence tomorrow. And then the president, a day or two later, is going to have to go before the American people and say, oh, gee, the Russians have pretty much let the cat out of the bag, and I guess we're going to have to tell you now there's an extraterrestrial presence. Would you want to be the president that has to make that announcement to the American people? And so the problem is the White House doesn't have access to the information. It's all been pulled out from under them, including the Congress. We understand that. It sits in the national security structures deep down, fully classified to the max. Meanwhile, the national security structures, the military services, the civilian agencies work for the president, who is their commander-in-chief. And they can't act on the ET issue because if they did, right, it would be treason. They don't have the license to do that, period. And so as long as they have withheld the information and as long as they continue to work for the president, we're in an impasse. What breaks this impasse is if the president, under pressure from the media, which could launch a gate into gate mode at any moment, or simply under the logical pressure of knowing there is now a disclosure race going on in the world, will send a representative to meet with a representative regarding this issue within the military intelligence world, private meeting to discuss what does the president need, what does the national security structures need for an appropriate disclosure event to take place, and of course the aftermath of that event. And once they've come to an understanding, a meeting of the minds, then disclosure could take place the next day. And the United States could be the first nation to end this truth embargo, an embargo that it started.
Well, are you going to trust, though, what if the president comes out and says, I'm disclosing XYZ, would you trust what he's saying? I mean, do you trust these entities who have been keeping this secret for so long?
Trust but verify, Alejandro. The disclosure, what we seek, what is the prize of the advocacy movement, is not, how many ETs have you got, where are the craft, and what are they made of, but rather the simple acknowledgement that we're being engaged by non-human intelligence. That's what's in those craft up there and possibly elsewhere. That's
Gotcha.
it. That's all it is. And I assure you, the president, assuming he has the cooperation of the military and the intelligence services, is able to then provide some evidence which will be compellingly confirmatory of that statement, right? I don't think there's going to be any doubt at all amongst the vast majority of the people. There's be some people that will doubt it to the very end. There are still people who think the earth is flat. What can I say?
All right.
That won't be difficult. Now, what the government says after that in the post-disclosure world, in the weeks and months that follow, that's a different matter. And fortunately, we have vast resources available to us. Not only the financial resources that will immediately become available once it's understood, oh my God, this is actually real, but the internet and the research has been done. So if the government feels it can tell us there's an ETs and then tries to concoct some cock and bull story to kind of maneuver us around, that's not going to go very well for them. Might work in China, where if you hold up your hand, they shoot your hand off. But in the United States, no. So I'm counting on them to understand that. And I expect that what we were told will be true. Now, whether we get that information as fast as we want it remains to be seen.
Right. But you're going to keep working to get that out as soon as possible. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I know you're a busy guy, and you've got to be still probably pretty beat.
No, I've actually gotten a lot of rest. I'm ready to go, Alejandro. I greatly appreciate Open Mind support on this and all the coverage you've done. I know there's going to be a lot more. Keep up the great work. We are winning. This is very close.
Great.
Truth is coming.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.